Welcome to Lunch Money. Coming up, the future of Royal Mail and do we need Daily Post? Why is Tesla making less money? And stick around to find out where Britain's favourite new bank account is. Hello, I'm Simon Lambert. Joining me on today's Lunch Money is This Is Money's Helen Crane and Victoria Scholar from the show sponsor Interactive Investor. Royal Mail could cut letter deliveries to as little as 3 days a week under new proposals outlined by Ofcom. These are highly controversial, and critics claim they are a threat to the existence of the postal service itself. Helen, what did Ofcom say about Royal Mail?
So they've done a report this week and they've basically said that Royal Mail's business model isn't sustainable. This is all to do with the universal service obligation, which is the idea that Royal Mail has to deliver to every address in the UK 6 days a week. So Ofcom has suggested in order to improve the service, they could potentially cut that amount of days down. So they said cutting it down to 5 days a week would save £200 million to the Royal Mail business, and cutting down even further to just 3 days a week would save £650 million. That's obviously proved, as you said, hugely controversial.
People don't like this idea, do they? They still expect their post on time every single day, even though there's a great deal of evidence that shows they're not getting their post on time every single day. We've done a number of investigations on This Is Money, haven't we, over recent months showing that? Yeah,
absolutely. So the figures alone show that people really aren't getting the service that they would expect from Royal Mail, from the postal service. Even though we don't send as many letters as we did before, so since 2011, the amount of letters that we send has halved, and still, Royal Mail at the end of last year got fined for not delivering letters on time by Ofcom. We've spoken to readers who said they don't get post every day. They'll get a bundle of letters every few weeks, suggesting that they've been backed up in a sorting office somewhere. So, it's clear that something has to give at Royal Mail, but does that mean cutting down the days? People aren't going to like that.
And I mean, this includes the letters that you just get randomly, that you just open, you don't really read them, doesn't it? But it's also things like hospital appointments, doctor's appointments, dentist appointments, important letters that people need urgently. And it's also businesses, say, the registered post. So is there a scenario where we don't need post 6 days a week and cutting it down could make the service better?
It could make the service better. Actually, one of the points that Ofcom made is that perhaps they would change the first and second class post system. So a general, a standard letter would take a bit longer, maybe sort of 3 to 4 days to be delivered, but the service would be more reliable. So people have said in this Ofcom survey, they've spoken to members of the public and they've said they don't mind their post being a bit slower, but they want to be able to rely on it actually getting there in the end. So it could be that post is slower, but it does actually turn up. You're right. There are situations where people really need a letter. Appointments, small businesses are quite angry about this idea that they wouldn't get post every day. So could slowing down be a solution? Maybe.
Okay, Victoria. So not necessarily great news for consumers and households, but potentially good news for investors. What was the Royal Mail owner's share price reaction to this?
So International Distribution Services, which owns Royal Mail, rallied by over 4% on Wednesday. I think this reflects the optimism among investors about the regulator's openness to potential change at the embattled postal service, which is unsustainable at this point. We've seen that the stock is up by about a quarter over the last year, so it has been rebounding quite significantly. But to put it into a longer term context, we're still sharply lower than where we were at the highs during COVID, when there was a lot more dependence on letters when we were in the midst of lockdowns, of course. There was also a vote of confidence from the analyst community as well. JP Morgan raised its price target on the back of this Ofcom release, which really highlights the improvement in sentiment among the analysts as well.
So IDS, as it's catchily known, why not abandon a name everybody knows for an acronym that nobody does? Where does it make its money? Royal Mail is not the important part of the business, is it, for investors? It's elsewhere.
Yes, that's right. So there's essentially two parts to the business. There's Royal Mail, which we all know, and then there's GLS, which is its overseas parcel business. Now, in the first half, we saw that group operating losses for for Royal Mail came in at £319 million, and then there was operating profit at GLS of £150 million. So we can see that those losses more than offset the gains seen in the international business. So the hope for IDS is that it can improve its fortunes at Royal Mail and potentially play some kind of catch up with GLS and overall become a profitable or at least breaking even business either this year or next.
Now, across the Atlantic, we've had some very different businesses delivering results. Some of the Magnificent Seven have been updating us. Yeah. Netflix smashed expectations, only to be followed by Tesla disappointing and saying that its profits have fallen. What did Tesla tell us, and why are its profits down by so much? Yeah,
so we had the quarterly update from Tesla. We saw that revenues came in at $25.1 billion on earnings of 71 cents a share. Both of those are below analyst expectations. And I think what really spooked investors was the fact that it said that vehicle volumes growth is going to be notably lower this year versus last year, which is why the stock was down by nearly 6% after hours. Now, Tesla's been adopting this strategy to cut prices to try and respond to the weak macroeconomic backdrop and sluggish consumer demand. But of course, that has been weighing on profit margins, so it makes profitability that much more challenging. Also, it's facing intense competition from BYD, a Chinese automaker, which actually overtook Tesla to become the world's biggest EV maker. That was earlier this month. So there really is a confluence of pressures at the moment, and it's the second quarter in a row that Tesla has disappointed investors.
Thank you, Victoria. And finally, we have the latest round of bank switching figures out today. Helen, which bank is top of the pops and who is losing current account customers?
Yeah, so there was a real sort of frenzy towards switching your current account to a different bank at the end of 2023. More people than ever did that between October and December. And that's largely because banks were offering these big cash bonuses for people to switch. So looking at the banks that were most popular, these figures actually run slightly earlier, so these are July to September. NatWest is the winner, so it gained almost 60,000 new customers in those 3 months, and that's largely because it was offering £200 cash for people who switched. Swiftly following were HSBC and TSB, who were also offering big cash bonuses, and the banks that were losing out were the newest or challenger banks, so we saw Monzo and Starling both lost customers. They didn't offer any cash bonuses, and there's perhaps a concern around people use these things like their holiday money, but are they willing to switch their main current account to these banks? Perhaps not.
And Nationwide lost customers as well, didn't it? Which is a surprise. But does that reflect simply the bonuses that are attracting new customers and how that swings things around?
I think so. I think Nationwide did have a bonus at some point last year, but it didn't kind of line up with the timings of these particular figures. It does seem to be a popular bank with customers at the moment, but clearly cash was king last year when it came to switching, and that's actually something that's not happening. So those bonuses have gone away. So interesting to see what the next set of figures will bring.
Okay, thank you very much, Helen. That's all for today's Lunch Money. You can catch all the previous shows by searching for This Is Money on YouTube, and if you do watch there, please help us reach more people by hitting the like button and subscribing. Thank you for watching, and join us for the next show on Tuesday. Goodbye.